All right, this is If My People Bible Reading, Part 43, Genesis 18, and we're going to start verse 8. The three visitors have come, two are messengers. Yeshua is the third one. Abraham is taking care of them. Sarai here's part of what's going on, and it's kind of interesting. Just a few tidbits that people read over without even thinking about it that we're going to bring up. Um, Yahweh says that there's going to be a child born again. And Sarah hears this. So in verse 12, she says, So Sarah laughed to herself as she thought, um, and she didn't say it, she thought, after I'm worn out and my master is old, will I now have this pleasure? She thought of it. In other words, it's in her head. The reason we bring this up is everything you think and do is recorded in your brain, and your brain sends out waves. The Father is the Father of everything, so He can pick up any wave that exists. So when we go to judgment one day, we will either be covered completely because we're the bride of Yeshua, or we will be uncovered and we'll be subject to everything we ever said, did, or thought. Give you an example here. So Sarah, um, she thought about it. Then Yahweh said to Abraham, Why did Sarah laugh and say, Will I really have a child now that I'm old? Is there anything too hard for Yahweh? I will return to you at the appointed time next year, and Sarah will have a son. And Sarah was afraid, so she lied. She said, I didn't laugh. But Yeshua said, Yes, you did laugh. So Yeshua knew exactly what she was thinking. So we're responsible for what we're thinking, even if we didn't say it. That's why Yeshua says in the New Covenant to even think about, oh, I wish somebody was dead. I wish I could kill them. In reality, you don't. Majority of all people on earth don't do what they're thinking, but they're going to be held responsible for their thinking. That's what we're saying. Very important here. Right now, in this old covenant, they're not held responsible for thinking things. The Torah that the Christians today don't have to think they follow because that's the Old Testament and that's just a bunch of history and nonsense and too hard to follow is nothing compared to what we're responsible for once we give our life to Yeshua to become engaged, to be a bride of Christ one day, to be the bride of Yeshua. Yeah, somehow that just doesn't even go through the institutionalized church pastors. They don't have a clue what I just said, or the reason I say that in such broad spectrum is because do you hear it in the pulpits today? What you're hearing right now, have you ever heard this at all? I doubt it. Okay, very important to bring that up. Then in 17, Yeshua is saying, then Yahweh say, well, that's Yeshua. Yahweh is Yahweh Elohim, Lord God Almighty, and His Son. One and the same, Echad. One and the same, meaning the Father's in heaven, the Son is in heaven, and all other places. Right now, Yeshua is right here. God is everywhere. And Yeshua is not everywhere. He is who He is. Right now, He's here with Abraham. And He's getting ready to do some correcting. Just as His Father does correction at times with certain people who are very bad, it says, and Yahweh killed them. Took them out. They're so evil. It's kind of where we are today. We're thinking, wish Yahweh would come and take out a bunch of people I know. Okay. So Abraham talks to the three as he's leading them out, and he wheels and deals, just like Moses does. The same thing. Hey, Moses loved the people so much he was willing to do most anything to save the people. Abraham's making a deal for people he doesn't even know. Well, how about this? How about that? How about 50? How about 40? How about 30? Finally, it's down to 10. And Yeshua agrees to it. Why? Because Yeshua knew there was less than 10. And even the ones he took out, as we'll bring up again, even the ones he took out, Lot, his wife, Lot's wife, who, by the way, what's Lot's wife's name? Wife, I guess. Hey, whiff, whiff, will you go with me? Well, she went with him, all right, and she perished. She looked back. She just didn't want to leave all that fun stuff. Must have had a bunch of malls or shopping places in there or something. There was some kind of lifestyle she didn't want to give up, even though the place was full of sexual deviant behavior. And that's the Sodomites and the Gomorrites. It's all about eating and pleasure and fun. They were probably all overweight and eating too much carbs or something. I don't know. So in verse 33, chapter 18, when Yahweh had finished speaking with Abraham, he left and Abraham returned home. Our comment is the love of Yeshua is great and the promise he made to Abraham did occur. But pay attention to the end results. Years later, Sodom and Gomorrah was destroyed, including the land, also the future of Lot, his wife, and even his daughters was grim. Chapter 19. The messengers go in, and verse 5, they called to Lot, where are the men who came to you tonight? Bring them out to us so that we can have sex with them. So these people are on top of them. In other words, they're just trying to get this whole city into doing the same thing. Our comment is cunningness and nakedness and immoral sex have been with us from the beginning. I'm taking you right back to the Garden of Eden with Adam and Eve, or as we would say in some, Eve and Adam being totally beguiled by Hasatan sexually. We're Cain. Think about Cain coming out of that. So that tree of the knowledge of good and evil is not evil. It is a tree of knowledge of good. So just say that. It's a tree of knowledge of good. But when you mix half-truths and lies with it, it becomes evil. And there's where Hasatan comes in. So Torah, we were never, ever meant to be under Torah. Yeshua just wanted us to hear and obey. 2 laws, take care of the garden, and don't mess with the tree. Couldn't even follow 2 laws. And later on, he didn't let us get near the tree of life representing himself because he didn't want us. Why? He loved us so much. Let me put it this way. He loved us so much. He didn't want his people to live forever in sin, because if they ate from the tree of life, they would live forever in sin. They would never die. And live in sin and never dying is eternal death. That's how much Yeshua was willing to then lay down his life so that his Father could look upon us as a virgin bride, although we're not. But once our hearts are cleaned, permanently, once you give your life to Yeshua and you get the helmet of salvation and you put on the full armor of the Father, the full armor, it takes years to do that. Some it takes forever to do that. And we have the hope and the grace and the mercy that Yeshua will fix us all evenly at the end for those who are nearly perfect and some of us who are just remaining dumb sheep. He's going to fix our hearts one day. And then we will become perfect, immortal, to the father after the marriage ceremony. That's the way it is here in chapter 19. Look, we haven't even got to Genesis 19, and look how far we are in understanding the word. Wow. So what happens in chapter 19? Well, it's not good. And so Abraham and Lot's family leaves, and they go out south, and they head down to the southern part of the Dead Sea, the Salton Sea, and they get near Zoar, which just means small, a little dink town. And boom, there's so much pitch and sulfur in that area. It's disastrous. When you have an explosion or massive heat so big, you know what you end up with? Salt. The Salton Sea. Just telling you. Lot's wife, in verse 26, she becomes a pillar of salt. Verse 31, one day the older daughter said to the younger, now we're talking about Lot, our father's old and there's no man around here to lie with us, as is the custom all over the earth. Read that again. Our father was old and there is no man around here to lie with us, as is the custom all over the earth. Let's get our father to drink wine and then lie with him and preserve our family line through our father. Very interesting. The behavior of Sodom and Gomorrah, especially Sodom, that's where we get the word sodomy. Well, you're looking at it right there. Deviant, sexual, immoral behavior. And the daughters are just picking up what they learned in that wonderful city. There's nothing like city life, isn't it? City life is so wonderful. I want to live in the big city. I want to live up and just walk around and no trees and no grass or nothing, but just I want to be with all the people, and just love everybody. Everybody needs to love everybody. Well, it got lots of loving going on here, and what you get is that. That is about as deviant. So what happens to all this? None of it is good. So we go back to the point of what the angels and the messengers and Yeshua, if they had never met Abraham, would they have rightfully destroyed the entire city, including Lot, including his family? Would they have done it? Yeah. And it would end up being the same as the way it's going to end up when we get to the end of all these chapters? Yeah. Yeah. Yep. I end chapter 19 by a comment. We now live in a permissive society that pushes the freedom of deviant homosexual behavior. The lesbians, the queers, the gays, the lesbian, the homosexuals, those who transvestites, and now we have those who want to have sexual relationships with animals, bestiality. They want the same rights in the United States. Yeah, that's what's going on right now. Those who want to have sexual relationships with children 5 and under is now being pushed. Umbro is pushing that. United Men, Boy Society, which is all about gays, all about deviant behavior. Now where does it end? Where's it end, all you churches, all you institutionalized churches who, and you know who you are now allowing your own pastors to have such behavior, and you're allowing these people as into your church to run and manage things and become deacons and so forth? Are you kidding me? And yet most of the people I talk to who call themselves Christians don't have a clue, and they look at me like I'm making stuff up. They're so clueless. Yeshua loves his sheep, and so should I. So should I continue to pray for these sheep that are dumber than rocks? Yep. Yeah, I should. All right. We'll see you in chapter 20 next in Genesis. You're doing good. Hang in there.